Hey guys, welcome back to Roundtable Talk, where I analyse, dissect and review the latest releases as well as some old classics. You're joining me here today as we react to the latest Gunna album called Wunna. I'm a fan of Gunna's music. When I first heard of him, I'm not too sure how long ago, I kind of identified him as a more accessible young thug with less of the eccentricities that Thug has. But Gunna hasn't really gone on to the sort of mainstream success that I kind of predicted for him. At the same time though, I still think he's a very decent artist. I found that he's usually a better feature artist than he is on his own projects, although I did really enjoy the mixtape Drip or Drown too. I'm excited to hear what he's got for us on Wunna. I have heard, I think, one of the singles from this album called Skybox, which I thought was really good, and on non-traditional track production. So I'd be interested to see if Gunna continues to go down that kind of road on this album. I would kind of like to hear him experiment. I have seen the production credits as well, and there's lots of credits to Weezy, who is, I think I said on the previous video, one of the most underrated producers in hip-hop at the moment, especially in the trap lane. So yeah, I'm excited to hear that. I'm not expecting too much depth from Gunna, but I'm expecting good flows, I'm expecting good beats, and I'm hoping we get at least some decent bars from Gunna and some not too repetitive flows. That is one criticism you can level at him, that is sometimes his music can become a bit samey. So let's just hope that it's not like that and that Wunna is diverse enough. So yeah, I'm not going to ramble on too long, but before I jump in, please do remember to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and follow me with the social links below. I really appreciate it. That all said, let's dive into the first track off of Wunna, called Argentina.
Easy out of here. Smoke shit loud and noise, swerving around these toys, stop for a bus. You pussy don't talk to my niggas, cause they know we get the business done. We like some students, why talking you niggas, and trust me, we gonna keep a grudge. Swear to God that I'm going out live for my family, might pay a visit to your mom.
Just got a feeling we're gonna get an album full of these sort of twinkly guitars. They've become a lot more prominent in trap music quite recently. On Future's last album, there was so much of it, this Middle Eastern, almost Arabic tone to the instrumentals in the background. Obviously you've got that amazing trap bass and trap drums as well, but yeah, as I said, it's become very popular in the genre. So yeah, I wonder if we're going to get a whole album of it. I'm not averse to it, to be perfectly honest.
I see high security like Trump. I'm trust you for as I spit, if in my hip, can't nobody size me.
A nice sort of chilled intro, nothing too mind-blowing, but yeah, Gunna was sliding on that. Really interesting melodies weaved in, especially on the hook. Gunna, again, not saying particularly much, but again, that was very much about vibe and sort of setting the tone, I guess, for the rest of the album. So yeah, excited to hear the rest. Next track is called Gimmick.
Got the chop chopping like crickets. Lambo truck look like it's kitty. Loaded shit, no chillin' it. My dog down the road might have to kill again. Swear that finance hoes come out for Benjamin. We said, boss the bank, gave a few balls to my dog. Cut the just system and fuck the 4 walls.
Yeah, not for me, that one. Just a little bit uninteresting. Beat wasn't great, Gunna's flow wasn't great, and of course, as I said, you're not getting too much lyrically from Gunna, so with all three of those things, just makes for a not very great song. Just not a very strong track at all. Very disappointed with that one. I guess the only saving grace is that it's a 2-minute track. I have noticed as well that a lot of the tracks are very short on here. There's 18 tracks, but I think just a handful of them go over 3 minutes. So yeah, if they're bad, at least they're short. Next track is called MOTW. Let's hear it.
We can relate. I gotta stay laced. She want us to date. I teach you keep it faithful. I'ma make a way. Niggas put a talk down, put a stick talk, we'll shoot. Laying let me quit it, grab a chopper, start a World War 6. Finally got some millions and I barely feel rich. The minutes like it ringing and I'm knowing who it is. Hey, mama, I teach you keep it faithful. I'ma make a way. On my serve, I stand on curve with a ball full of niggas.
Another more relaxed track, very much in the vein of Argentina, the first track on this album. I much prefer this more low-key vibe from Gunna. I feel like his melodies definitely slide over this a lot more easily and a lot more smoothly than they do over the more upbeat track production or the majority of the time. But yeah, enjoyed that. Atmospheric beat was cool. Again, not too energetic or drawing too much emotion out of you, but definitely one that's pretty easy listening. Next track is called Feigning or Feigning. It's spelt Feigning, so yeah, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but yeah, it's track 4.
Shopping sprees for a weekend. Like FBG, I got free bands. It's my ring diamond canary yellow.
Beat bang. Don't know what instrument it is in the background there, but adds so much to the track. Adds a real energy to things, and again sounds very Middle Eastern in tone. Decent track. Nechie absolutely killed it with that beat. Gunna was doing a little bit of a Travis Scott impression on that track in terms of the sort of the cadence and melodic flow that he was using. But a good track, one I can see myself returning to for sure. On listening to that, I was just thinking about Gunna as an artist, and I think one of the biggest problems with Gunna as an artist is that a lot of these trap rappers, there obviously are so many of them now, have a sort of cartoon quality to them. They're all quite out there characters, and it's interesting, of course, that the front cover of this album is Gunna in sort of cartoon form, but people like Future, Young Thug have much more sort of colour to them as characters, and much more personality, and much more sort of eccentricities, as I mentioned before about Young Thug, and I feel like Gunna kind of lacks that. That's not to say he doesn't make some great tracks sometimes and put in some really great guest verses, but sometimes on an entire project he lacks that star quality to hold things together pretty much on his own. Next track features Young Thug and is called Dollaz on My Head.
I got on follow in my footsteps like the feds. I shoot like I'm Montana, chop up bullets, make them shit. See, I got codeine in my fridge. My bro on a steaming stove, cooking crack like grits. Got this vibe on a tippy toe, struggling in a pit. I pull up with a streak, I pull up with a pink toe. Whipping, she sucking it deep. I pussy told her catch me. I'm a lick of skin, she so precious. Might not fuck again, she too rose, gone on a miss. Drop 210, car came with no 10. You don't gotta, you the know, you can hide in front of tip.
Good track, not a great one. I think Young Thug kind of proved my earlier point in that even in that verse, which wasn't a fantastic Young Thug verse, was just a fairly good one. He showed a fair bit more of personality than Gunna usually does. But yeah, the track was okay, fairly forgettable, and not one of the pair's best collabs at all, really. I think the final track on this album also has a Young Thug feature, so hopefully it's a little bit better than that one. Next track is called Addys and features Nechie. Another miss for me, that one. I think it sort of leaned into some of Gunna's worst characteristics, such as being repetitive, and also topically, just felt like surface level glorifying of drugs, with none of the nuance that a lot of the other trap rappers or rappers in this lane sometimes deliver along with it. Not a huge fan of that track. Nechie's verse, don't really know who it is, and just wasn't at all good. So yeah, just not a great track. Let's move on. Next track is called Skybox. As I said before, I've heard this track already, but I'm gonna listen to it anyway in the context of the album.
Stretch my ends, money all in. Fucking a friend, breaking bed. 110s, counting the ends. Getting high in the skybox, I can see it. For the cops, we can't be stopped, just admit it. Paint time, bitch like.
Yeah, I enjoy Skybox. I think it's a very decent single. I thought was a good teaser for this. A little bit of different instrumentation for Gunna as well. Again, not reinventing the wheel, but as I said, I enjoyed how it differs from the sort of usual fare that you get from Gunna, and I thought some of the melodies that he was using are very sort of infectious as well. Next track is the title track, Wunna. I believe this might have been released earlier this week or last week at some point. I haven't heard it, so yeah, just gonna dive straight in. Instrumental, fantastic on that track, really ominous, moody. I really thought we were going to get something a little more serious based on the tone of the beat. Unfortunately, it felt like another sort of lifeless performance from Gunna. Again, just I've heard him do better, and I just feel like there wasn't a lot of energy, or wasn't enough injected into that track. I thought it was a great platform for him, but Yeah, I think he's sort of fumbled there, unfortunately. I do think that potentially Wunna could be a good summary of this project, at least so far. Gunna's being very much carried by the instrumentals, by the beats on this. His performances so far on any track haven't really been that noteworthy. Hopefully I'm proved wrong by the end of the album. I think we are about halfway through, so yeah, let's see what the second half is like. The next track is called Blindfold and features Gunna's usual partner in crime, Lil Baby.
We ain't gonna play, you with it, are you sure? Smoking like a train, you can smell it in my pores. Cup full of codeine, you can smell it when I pour. In 20, I ain't have a choice, and I got a yours, we didn't let me get boys. I've been getting millions, I ain't tripping about awards. Yeah, watching what I do, I got endorsement. Certified dripping, me ain't gonna walk water.
Yeah, another pretty uninteresting track. I found myself sort of through Gunna's verse, which was just, for want of a better word, quite boring. I found myself waiting for Lil Baby's verse. Lil Baby was better on that than Gunna. His verse and flow had a lot more going for it. But yeah, just overall a pretty generic one, not memorable. Just nothing outstanding from it at all. Just making up the numbers, it seems. Next track is called Rockstar, Bikes and Chains. What is this beat?
Let the pen drip on my main. Let the pen drip me and wait. Boss, I like bikers and chains. You don't want smoke with the game. Epping and spitting out flame.
Yeah, not great again. Beat was okay. I thought at the start it sounded as though it was going to turn into something or evolve into something a little bit more. But some of the drums and the snares on that sounded really cheap. And again, it's from Wheezy, so I'm surprised how bad that beat actually sounded in the end. And yeah, Gunna was just doing nothing with it, unfortunately. So far, this project's been really hit and miss for me. I preferred the more sort of low-key tracks from Gunna, rather than him trying to do sort of the bigger trap sound. I just don't think it's worked so far on here. I'm here to be proven wrong though. Next track is called Met Gala.
Yeah, I ain't fucked up a female, now I'm back like I came. That boy said my name, I went got me so strange. You been had a name, work hard for these clothes, causing watches and chains. Oh man, bro, what's got umbrellas, this whip for the rain. These pearl on my sheets while I beat out her frame. Don't go back up, she still saying my name. In love with my life and you wish we could trade.
This is much more like it. You can hear a little bit more emotion in Gunna's voice. He even stretched his voice a fair bit at the end there. Right to the edge, really, or almost being annoying, but again, showing a little bit of passion, which I think has been lacking on a fair bit of this album so far. So yeah, enjoying this one. It's got a real sort of 80s Vice City, Miami kind of vibe, which I'm really enjoying.
Walk it with the drip, that make a ball. Walk it with the drip, that make a ball. Came in and she stripped, her panties and all. Lip gloss shot in your car. Why here you think that I'm messing, relaxing and mention? No capping, cause we had it hard. Ain't get this shit just from asking, I made this shit happen and passionate, played a big part.
He's right.
Ain't get this bitch over macking and came out for actions and fashions and stay in the core. She said,
probably my favourite track so far, actually. A really sort of hypnotic flow, and there was a portion there towards the end where Gunna was really rhyming and sliding over that beat. Yeah, enjoyed that. Bit more of a serious mood, a bit more of an emotional Gunna on that. And I think that's the kind of stuff we need, and the kind of stuff I prefer from him. I'd love to hear more of that kind of Gunna, to be perfectly honest, on the rest of this album. Not sure I'm going to get it though. Next track is called Nasty Girl / On Camera.
her curls, fucking that nasty girl, yeah.
Nice.
She's tripping that crazy girls, I bought a shit and they pearls, yeah. Look how I keep a bankroll neat. Yeah, gonna wanna get out the street. Niggas just like honey, really sweet. Getting fly, take it big, you never would be flying to me. Travel all over the world, running them nasty girls. Shit ain't like a bounty. Pop my phone, they yelling, they break on me. I don't go to the teller. They working for free, I don't know what to tell them. They say it's legit, but I know it's propellers. I told her.
Yeah, preferred the first half of that track. Of course, you know, fairly misogynistic, as you can expect from the title of the song. But yeah, the bass on that first half of the beat was really incredible, to be perfectly honest. Second half, I can tell, you know, he was trying to go for an, I guess, artistic beat switch, which we should praise for the ambition, I guess, from Gunna. But I just don't think there was enough content in the song to pull that off. and I'm not sure of Gunna's ability to try and pull off that kind of thing anyway. Yeah, it was an okay track. Nothing too offensive apart from you know, the topic that he's addressing, but beyond that, yeah, it was okay. Next track is called Cooler Than a Bitch and features Roddy Ricch.
Cool in the bitch, everything twice, my shooter in the Ville. 10th grade, bought a frame, blew off the licks. Pack sit, feel like cruising on the ship. It's all just as far as I can spit. It's broken on the mall, if you like it, then you get it. If you standing by the tile, if you broken, we a piece. I feel like a record on a night of space. That pretty vibes with me, I make sure all on straight. I dress a bitch, I put it in some pride and bait. You want an international in all 50 states.
Gunna on this kind of beat with that twinkly guitar in the background, it's just his comfort zone, it's just where he's at his best. He's finding those like gaps and pockets in the beat as well. His flow on this is really, really good. Roddy Ricch also thrives on these kind of beats as well. On Lil Baby's last album, there's a track called Rockstar, which he featured on, which you know, had a similar kind of beat. And I'm excited to see what he brings.
Counting hundreds on the room. Hey, claiming your street, nigga, having loose lips. Got a lot of new shit. Eliante chain like the bottom of a ship. Got my niggas in the feds getting loans when they get out. Keeper had to bring the bent, take it with the kid out. Got sent around with shoe size for the. I done came about 2 times, yeah. I got top on top the rooftop, yeah. Big Cullen and suicide, yeah.
Cool, everything twice, my shooter in the Ville.
Roddy went in.
10th grade, bought a frame, blew off the licks.
Great appearance from Roddy there. I'm a big fan of his work, and I'm really excited to see where he goes from here. Track overall was a good one of the stronger tracks on the project so far. Just felt a much more fully constructed song, to be perfectly honest. A lot of these tracks, as I said, are very short and feel a lot like maybe half ideas and a few sort of off-the-top freestyles thrown in. This one felt a little bit more structured. I thought Gunna performed pretty well, but Roddy did come through and kind of steal the show. Next track is called I'm On Some.
Had 2 shows in a day, both 100K. My pockets feel heavy headed. Flew to New York, had to go and see Ellie. Ain't giving a no there. Way out of time, got him running wild, driving boats. She trying whip a whole ferry. He feel like I'm on something. Don't back down to no one. On something. Don't back down to no one. Everybody rolls coming. You broke boys ain't having none.
Another bit of filler, I thought, for this album. As I said about some of the previous tracks, just didn't feel a fully formed song, and just felt like Gunna went into the booth and spit some freestyle lyrics off the top, really. But both the beat and Gunna's performance were just okay. Not one I think that's going to be remembered past, you know, your first listen of this album, really. Next track is called Top Floor and features Travis Scott. Fingers crossed for a great Travis verse.
Weezy out here. Weezy out here. Weezy out.
Jumped out of a way right into it, days and kept I'm out too toxic.
Sounds a lot like Hot Part 2. Could actually even be sampling it. It sounds that similar. Probably recorded in the same session, I wouldn't doubt it. But Travis doing fantastic things to create an atmosphere already.
Miami, we at the star. I beat them, we eat calamari. You know, top floor, elevated entrance, not doors. Only thing above us is outdoors. Took her to beats, how I juggle the fame, and I gobble the pain when I swallow this drink. I grow my own gas in the back of the phone, need to cover a town so my haters believers. I hotline, turn the pipeline to a lifeline.
As I said, those horns in the background of the beat are so similar to what you hear on Hot, the Young Thug track from So Much Fun. That track kind of just made me want to go and listen to the Hot remix that features Travis Scott, but at the same time I think it was one of the stronger tracks here. Travis's performance was fairly typical. One thing you have to love about Travis though is that he puts a lot of effort into creating the mood and the atmosphere and the vibe of the track. Through his sort of background vocals, the reverb, the effects on his voices, and the effect on his voice in the background is something that Gunna could definitely learn from. His verses and the way that he lays his tracks are very straightforward, whereas you look at someone like a Travis Scott or a Future or a Young Thug who understand that a lot of their music, as it's not the most lyrical, needs more colour, and that can be added in a variety of different ways, which Travis clearly does on this track, and I don't think I've ever really heard from Gunna on any track. Next track is called Don't Play Around.
You have a village, listen baby, you will never get a ring. Yeah, how about I ain't gonna make anything. Yeah, this money game, but we were never green. Yeah, shit up to the dome. Get it vibe, she earth tone. Pay 6,000 for my birthstone. I'm trapping off a work phone. I got day one niggas missing some temporary, some long gone now. Fresh first day of school.
Just another pretty tedious track. Just nothing much to it. Gunna's trying to be a little bit more upbeat on it, and I just don't think it works. Unengaging, unexciting, all those kind of words really. Just not too great. The next track is called Do Better. I really wish Gunna would.
I wanna see you do better. Fly, I'ma need a propeller. Fly when it's cold in the wall like a sweater. Sweater, no high in the change in the weather. Only had one time you can hear my voice. I say my song, cause show my song, cause one now I can be the one that call them joke. Can't nobody help me when you call you revoke. Always been the first, I be cleaning the soap. Control the fitness, I don't need a remote. Got some millions and I'm about to keep cleaning more. Gonna wanna, I'ma kill him with antidote. It's my persona, baby, and I thought you would know.
To be fair, this is actually better. Like Gunna, I'm being a little bit repetitive in that I'm saying that I prefer Gunna over these sort of more low-key, hypnotic instrumentals, and when his flow almost becomes part of the beat and just sort of slides over things, and it's a lot more, just feels a lot more fluid, I think, than anything else.
Run around, I got a bit of gun, I caught some slides so I call him so long. And there's some big bees in my cousin a foe. I sting like a bee, gotta watch your approach. I only had one time, you can hear my voice, I say my song, go show my song, cause got one life, you can get rich, tight to the rain on the roads, umbrella.
One of the stronger tracks here, definitely. It embraces vibe more than anything, and like I said, I think that's where Gunna's a little bit stronger. We've come to the final track. It's called Far and features another appearance from Young Thug. Let's hear if it's a little bit better than the last one and sends the project out on a high. Why is Gunna slurring his words so much on this track? Definitely a lot more noticeable than usual. He usually, you know, crams a lot of words together, but yeah, just definitely sounds very slurred on this. Not sure that it's working.
Deep pussy tryna pull against the God. For granted, hit your girl in French's on. But life back, he Godson. Godson, my baby mama hate the fat I'm on. I never testimony, but I sin. Feel like a nurse, you can't teach a nigga that. The whole world, our boys, they know who we are. Think we make it far. Oh, I hit the die. Hit the prison, throwing rocks.
So that was Wunna by Gunna. On the whole, I'd say it was a very average album, very hit and miss, but overall pretty average. Nothing too majorly offensive, but of course nothing mind-blowing. Like I said throughout the review, really, I think Gunna fares better, much like Nav, to be perfectly honest, on the more sort of low-key tracks that obviously have to have very good instrumentals, but embrace vibe and atmosphere more than they try to be the sort of new club banger. So that means that, you know, tracks like Argentina, MOTW, Gala and Do Better were some of my favourite tracks. So I thought the Roddy Ricch appearance and the Travis Scott appearance were pretty good too. Both of the Young Thug collaborations just weren't really that great for me. The final track called Far, Gunna's performance just sounded as though he was pretty much off his face recording that. And Young Thug's performance again was okay, but nothing too special. And I do enjoy Skybox purely because of, you know, the different kind of production that's used on it. Overall, I didn't go into this with, you know, huge expectations or with expectations of Gunna putting together this sort of masterful body of work. That's just not the artist he is. But I think Wunna, as his second real album, kind of reveals, I think, that Gunna's just not an album artist. He's just one of those artists that's every now and again gonna have a really great track like Trip Too Hard and really great guest appearances. But as someone who's gonna put together a full album experience, I just don't think we're gonna get that from Gunna. As I said, this album's not terrible. I just don't think it's great either. It's just very much middle of the road. Some tracks I probably would throw on a playlist, but not a project that I would see myself coming back to in full anytime soon. That all said though, thank you for watching. Please do remember to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and let me know in the comments section what was your favourite track on this album, and do you think it's one of Gunna's best? What were your thoughts on the project as a whole? Apart from all that, I hope everyone's doing as okay as possible in this sort of craziness that the whole world is experiencing at the moment, and I'll make sure to see you for the next one.